Whoa! How you doing, everybody? How you doing? Glenn Giordano here one more time for another great show. You know, we're getting so many good guests. If you've seen musicians on couches drinking coffee, and I didn't do a coffee again today. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm gonna have to drop the coffee part and just go with musicians on couches. But I'm talking with the technical people, and here's one of my technical guys right now. He's in charge of the show. He's my producer, this guy. He's the producer. His name is Walter Wannabe. Doesn't really do very much. I think I got him at Walmart, so I don't know. Anyway, okay. Today's guest on Musicians on Couches Drinking Coffee, but not me, is a gentleman named Andrew Blaze Thomas, who is a friend of a friend, Joseph Veloz, who is a bass player that I love working with. Andrew is a guy that Joe toured with many times. They're close friends. I believe Andrew plays on Joe's album. Anyway, this is Andrew's book. All right, I'm gonna put a picture of that, for a second somewhere around here. Anyway, and I will definitely spell his name, maybe up there or up there. The magic of video. Anyway, so Andrew is definitely like the blues road warrior. He's played with every major blues act that there is anywhere. My goodness, so many people. The list goes on and on and on. I don't even want to mention them. It's just a long list. You need to go to his site. I'll put the link in the descriptions. But on top of that, on top of being a great touring and recording session drummer, especially in that genre, blues, probably gospel, soul, that kind of genre, R&B, he decides, and we'll get into it in the video, to write a book. He's an author. Like, that's really cool. That's great. I think when I spill my name, I gotta look it up on YouTube or whatever. Was that one in? I don't know. Anyway, it's a good interview. This is a really good interview because especially today, if you're a drummer, you need to really cast your net as wide as you can. What are your other skills? With the pandemic and all that stuff that's going on, gigs are few and far between, so you've got to spread the net, my friends, spread the net. No further ado, I want you to enjoy this. Get his book. You can order it on Amazon.com, and if you don't like Amazon, you can go to his website and give him the money directly. And anyway, without any further ado, here we go to the interview with Andrew Blaze Thomas.
Your favorite drummer, all the way from Chicago, Illinois, Mr. Andrew Blaze Thomas.
Hey, Doc. How you doing, man?
Good, how you?
All right. Welcome to Musicians on Couches Drinking Coffee. Although I didn't make any coffee today. I already had too much. So, I got your book. Right? Which I read cover to cover. And welcome to the show. Let's get right into it. I've got my official Spider-Man clipboard with some of the research I did on you. All right, official Spider-Man, and he's saved us a lot. He really has. We have to really thank Spider-Man a lot. Okay, so I'm silly. All right. So when you just talking a little bit about your book, and you can get it on Amazon, right? Can you get it directly from your website or anything like that?
Yes, you can find it on my website, but it's definitely it's on Amazon as well. A lot of other digital platforms, but yeah, as soon as you go right on the first page of andrewblazethomas.com, you'll see it right away. You
All right,
click
yeah,
on
I actually bought it from Amazon. I ordered
it.
from
Okay.
that's that's easy. They bring it to your house and all that stuff, so it's easy.
So
Anyway,
you have Prime?
huh?
I say so. So you have Prime. You have Amazon Prime.
No, you know, and I'm one of those. I'm a little nutcase semi-socialist, so I don't want to join Prime because I have a lot of issues with Amazon. So
Okay, I understand.
I do
Enough
use them
said.
occasionally when I need, and I've got to order music from them sometimes. But hopefully they'll unionize in Alabama and they won't treat their employees so badly, and maybe I won't feel like. I mean, I don't even shop at Walmart. I won't.
Oh,
I won't go in because they treat their. I mean, most of their employees are on welfare because they don't pay them enough, and it's just not. They're a bad company. So I know I'm one of those. My daughter says I'm one of those crazy people. I just I want to see everybody have health care and all that stuff. I don't care. Anyway, let's talk about you. So you grew up in Chicago,
absolutely.
absolutely, and you started playing in church.
Yeah, it was my first
Right.
gig.
So your first gig. So talk about a little bit about that because it talks about you were like, well, you were like 11 or something. How old were you when you took the drums?
9.
Nine. All right. That's young. And I think I would have been terrified to play in front of people that way at 11 years old or 9 years old. So tell me about that experience of sitting down the first time and you're looking at all those people and you had to play a backbeat and all that kind of stuff. And walk me through some of that.
Well, at 9, I didn't have the job completely all the way yet. It was still another drummer there. Actually, the main drummer at my church was the pastor's son. So I was one of the kids that always just sat right behind him and just watched everything he did. And at 9, I remember I would play the offering at church and maybe like the last song before the congregation leaves out, he would let me play. And then around 11, 12, that's when I got the job full time, and he had went off to college. And when he left for college, it was like I had got, I was groomed and I walked right into the job. I knew to be on time every Sunday morning. And I lived about 4 blocks from the church. So even if my parents couldn't give me a ride to make the 11 a.m. service, I could get dressed on my own, walk to the service.
Right.
That was my first official job. We had 3 services. We had 2 services on Sunday, 11 a.m. morning worship. We had an evening service. Then we had Tuesday night Bible study. We had Thursday night choir rehearsal, and we had a Friday night church service. And this went on all during my high school years, from 12 years old all the way up till I graduated and left home. I did my job.
Wow. That's really cool though, from 12 years old. I actually got my first paying gig when I was 17. I got fake ID and I auditioned for an off-Broadway Godspell because I'm from New York.
Ooh.
I got it. And I ended up doing Godspell for 3 years in a little theater off Broadway. And all my friends in high school were working at McDonald's or Burger King. And I was so proud of myself, man. And it wasn't great money. It was like a couple of $100 a week, but I was playing Godspell, And the thing was, the one good thing about studying was I had learned to read at a very young age.
Mm.
And really, when I walked into the Godspell audition, it was a lot of guys don't do it. And I want to talk about that in your book a little bit. You mentioned a reading, and with my students, I make them read because it's such a lost art. And that audition when I was 17, they handed me the book. And if you read the book, you have the gig. And if you couldn't read the book, you can't get the gig. And when I was in trouble, my daughter was going to college, I needed money. I auditioned for Carnival Cruise Lines and I auditioned. They give you the chart. Here's the chart, read the chart. And I said to people, you don't have to be a great drummer to work for Carnival or Godspell or one of these, but you got to be able to read the book. Got to read it. So let's talk about that in your book about reading, and that you've only according to the book, not too long ago, you really got into reading.
Yes, as a pastime. See, it was like we had two. Me and you we had 2 completely different careers because I wasn't really confronted with reading. I just played gigs, and I've never had a gig where the chart was sitting in front of me and it's like sink or swim. All my gigs I've been doing has always been by ear, and I started to get into reading just because of curiosity. I've always felt like my career has been like somebody explained to me, like, when you can't read, it's like driving down the road with one eye. And it's like, yeah, you could do it, but but should you? You want to have all your sensibilities about you, every option about yourself and about your playing to get you to the next level, whatever that level may be.
Right.
So I just decided, man, like, what is all these little notes about when you open up your favorite magazine and they give you like these play, and they're like the world's best drummers are breaking them down and talking about them. And I always felt like I was left out of that curve of the drumming world. So I just started doing it just out of curiosity and just wanting to be better. The catalyst wasn't to get a gig or to get into some working band where reading was required. I just wanted to just be better and just, try some new things with my practice time and my focus, because I was hitting the wall with my practice like most drummers. You do so much, you feel like you just get on the drum set just playing the same stuff over and over again. And that happens until we find a new study or a new style or new rhythm. But that had just, it just got to the point where I've been putting it off a lot too. I would buy a book, start out with it, get to the first 10 pages and then don't pick it up for 6 months,
Yeah. I go through that all the time.
Because you get a tour or you get something, and once you get the call for that thing, for that new tour or that new gig that you're going to get paid for, then you just put the book away.
Right.
You start studying for the gig, and so I've started to pick it up and start over lots of times.
And with the pandemic and my schedule being much more open, like everybody else, I found this about myself. I am very much motivated by, if I'm playing regularly, I will practice a lot. When there are no gigs on the schedule, I'll just watch TV. I mean, that's where, not that motivation to work it.
Yeah.
So, so you got into reading, and I'm glad about that, because I like to, on my channel, I talk about that. Like, even when I'm working on a crazy polyrhythm that I don't understand, that I saw Vinny Colaiuta do on YouTube, I write it out, and so I can see where everything falls. And that really, the actual act of writing it out for me helps me to learn much faster.
Okay.
And for a little while I play the polyrhythm, I read it on my hand. I read my writing until I got it inside, and then I take the page away and I start playing with it. But that reading really assists me, I think, in the speed of learning, because I'm not having to watch him all that closely. I figure it out, and then I write it out, and then I can attack it. All right, so let's talk about this pandemic. And I like to bring it up a little bit because it's hurt everybody. Hurt me a lot. I do make most of my income from students, which is good. I did a lot of Zoom teaching, which I hate. Just effective. It's a terrible way to teach. But I don't know how yours is. So how did the pandemic affect you emotionally, career-wise, financially?
Oh, wow. It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a big question. We had to adapt.
Right before the pandemic hit, I like to ask, my friends and that's in the business, what did you have going on, in 2020 before the pandemic hit? And man, some of the answers are just really interesting. Some of my friends, we had to have a woosah moment. Because for some of us, our careers was getting to the apex. Everything was really coming together, and then boom, most of us, we had it all mapped around what gigs that we had planned out. So it was the same for me. Ironically, I was going to China. I had so I was playing with Billy. I'm still playing with Billy Branch and the Sons of Blues, and we got a call to do a month of China, and we were supposed to play at the BMAs, and then we had Chicago Blues Fest, and a bunch of festivals booked all throughout the summer. and then all of a sudden it just stopped. So right before that happened, I was already writing the book, so I said, okay, well, I definitely have to stick to this book and, use that time, start back
Right.
writing again. I was already songwriting, so that put my focus back into, finishing those songs that I never finished, or, just really tightening
Right.
up
Right.
songwriting craft. I didn't add more students. I had like 4 already, so I just maintained the 4 and then just booked some more stuff. And
Right.
the teaching got weird because my students are all professional drummers, and they didn't know when their next money was coming in. So
Right. Right.
I lost some students as well. Only really like one really stayed. The other 3 I understood because my money was stopped too. So
Right.
so I
Right.
understood that they had to stop taking lessons with me until everybody can figure out what's going to happen with with coronavirus loans, or
Right. Right.
unemployment. Everybody was in this mass scramble, and me included, to figure this out. So um emotionally, I was doing fine because I had a bunch of stuff that I was already invested in, and I needed time to get that stuff done anyway. But what really um stopped a lot for me is when George Floyd got killed. When
Right.
that
Right.
happened in the summer of 2020, that stopped everything. I didn't play drums for maybe about 2.5 months. And me, along with everybody, we just need time to heal. We needed time to pause.
Right.
A lot of the people that I thought were my fans and friends in the blues world are not anymore, because Facebook exposed everybody's true feelings about what they were thinking about
Right.
the other person of color.
Right.
And this ugly truth attacked the blues world so bad that it really changed my outlook on how I view people and look at things, so much to the point that I'm not really in a rush to get back out there. I'm taking my
Right.
time with that, because now I'm realizing what's really important. Is it more important for me to nurture my craft here, build my YouTube channel, write my next book, promote this book, engage with more students, gain more students? There's so much more that I can really, get into than just chasing another $150 at a bar,
Right.
And
Right. Definitely.
yeah, so that's what 2020 did for me. I also
Okay, I want to pause in this video for a moment. I don't generally do this, all right? And I did not intend for this channel to get political in any way, really. I really didn't intend to do it. But in the climate that we're in, it's hard not to be a little political, okay? It's hard not to be. It really, because everything in some respect is political. But I am with Andrew 100% on this, and I posted a couple of little clips. It's time. It's time for us that are like us. And I hate to use the word liberal Democrat. I hate to use that word because it just doesn't mean anything anymore. But those of us who believe that this country is not only so divided, but maybe it always has been. Maybe it always has been, and now the sheets have been taken off the bed, or whatever you want to, or the hoods off the people, right? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? There's for me, I have taken a stand of people that I will put in my own circle. Now, I will listen to the other side. I think good conversation is right, and listen to people who disagree with me. But those I consider part of my personal circle, right? I can disagree with you on how much racism there is in this country, but if you don't think there is any, I don't think we can hang out and talk. I don't think we're able to do that, right? Because you're living in a non-reality. You're living in some alternate universe. We can discuss how to fix our healthcare system, but if you don't think our healthcare system is screwed up, you don't live on this planet. You're not part of the team here. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? you can debate whether you like the particular policy of our former president or not, but if you don't think he was a complete ass most of the time, I don't think we can sit and agree. I don't think we can sit and talk. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. You know, if you don't think he had something to do with the insurrection, I actually don't think he should be. He worded his stuff in a way where he can get away with charges against inciting the riot. I actually would fall on the fact that you're infringing there on his free speech, and the people that did what they did had agency. But if you don't think he was shoveling coal on the fire, I don't know if we can hang out. That's where I am with this. And I think for those of us to make a stand on that, to make a stand on that. And yes, I know it sounds harsh, but to say, we're not going to take that and we're going to push back. We're not going to deal with that anymore. If that's what you think, go hang out by yourselves. Maybe that's creating a divide, or maybe that's eradicating those who do not walk in this reality. Do not share truth, fact. I'll leave you with this. It's an absurd thing, right? And that's why it makes sense. We could discuss things about the space program and whether you think it's a good idea or not. We could even discuss whether it was a good idea to go to Mars and spend that money when we have so many things that are needed here in education and equality in the U.S. We can discuss all that. But we can't really discuss whether the Earth is flat or not. Because it's not. If you think the Earth is flat, you're missing some cells up here, guy. You're missing some cells, right? And so then we can't come to the table. Because that divide is too far.
So with race relations, just how, especially January 6th, the storming of the Capitol, all these things was a catalyst to say, I need to go back to school and study history. So I've decided to go for my master's. I'm in graduate school right now at Illinois State University.
Oh, congratulations, that's good.
And my major is history. So now I'm refreshing my memory on what this country was built on and why we see the things that we see today. And that's really helping me to understand the world in a different place. So this past year just really, really changed a lot for me, and I think I took an advantage, I'm taking advantage of it to just really find my place. Right. And it really shaped the way my life will be moving, for the rest of my career.
Looking over your career and talking about you a little bit with Joe, you are the consummate road warrior. You are definitely the road. You've been just everywhere, and I don't know how many vans you must have traveled in. I can't count. Maybe. So, and the few times I have done the van touring gig, they've been smaller tours, and haven't really enjoyed them all that much. You know what I mean? I like the playing part of it, but sharing rooms and all that stuff, it just was, oh man, this is like. And I felt at some time I told Joe, okay, so we're in Texas, but I'm playing the same club, basically, that's around the corner that I play up in Michigan all the time. So why did I just drive 1,500 miles to play the same club that I'm, you know what I'm saying? So I had a gravitation toward the theater gigs and those kind of things, because you play all week, you play all night long. It was good playing, it was fun. And at the end of the week, you got a paycheck. And that was how I fell into that. But what I want to talk to you about, what made you decide? I thought this was so cool, by the way. So few musicians, like maybe you'd see Vinnie Colaiuta write one or something like that, and they would write usually an instructional book. But what was your decision? How did you come about that decision to write a book? This is a really cool idea. This is great, because I want to hear that thought process, just in case I decide to write one.
Okay, two different things happened. I was on the road, both situations. I was in the van with James Armstrong. We were riding somewhere to
James.
Small town America. and on the way to the gig, me and James, we were sitting, I was sitting in the front seat and James was driving, and half the band was, sleeping in the back, and we're talking about just the conditions of the music. You know how you have just these conversations
right,
about the
right.
state of the business, you know. And he hired maybe a drummer 2 years before this, and then he went through another drummer, and then I started playing with him. So we were just talking about the change of drummers and what's that's like for a band leader, you know. And he was just saying, man, you know, it's not easy. And we started talking about why was he going through drummers? Why did he feel the need to fire people? And he was just saying that when he doesn't really fire them, the drummer just kind of weeds themselves out. They walk away. They don't do professional things. It's like they claim they want the gig, and then, you know, they get out on the road and they late, or they just, you know, not taking things seriously, not practicing. They don't know the music. So then he started commending me about what I was doing and how I've been, you know, doing a good job throughout the career. He's always said, well, man, every time I call you, I don't have to worry about that with you. I can just give you a call. I know you're going to be a pro. And he said, man, you should write a book. That's what you just said. And so a few years later, I was in Poland. I was touring with Dave Herrero, and we was talking about the state of the business and side musicians and band leaders, and that's the whole kind of conversation. And he said one of the same things, goes, man, Blaze, every time I hire you, we always work well together. It's never a problem. And we have the situation where we're friends. You know, it's not like, you know, the typical situation where it's, you know, boss and employee situation. You know, like we hang out even when we're not playing. So we can really get to the meat of conversation. There's no, you know, there's nothing, no tension when we talk about the job of a drummer and, you know, side musician. So he's just straightforward with me about how he feels about things and what he feels the responsibility of a drummer is. And I thought about that. I say, a lot of us, we want to work, but do we know our responsibilities?
Right.
And a lot of times, we've all spent the majority of our time getting the gig. You know, it's all about getting good.
Right.
You know, you practice so you can get your chops down. You want to sound great. We have these hero drummers in mind that we want to play like, but we don't know what they went through, what are they doing to stay employed? Because we all know it's one thing to get the call, but to keep getting the calls is how we make our money. That's how we stay working, you know. So I decided to just address that. What are the little things that has nothing to do with just your chops and how well you can play, but just what are the little things you can do to stay employed, just to stay in favor? And just like you said before, I've been fortunate enough, you know, I've been working consistently.
Yes,
you know,
you have.
Since 2005, really. You know, that's when really, you know, things. When I first got the gig with Bernard Allison, I never had to worry about getting a gig playing blues. I just had to.
I wonder how many miles you've actually put on your body over the course of this time, back and across this United States and abroad, man. It's a lot of miles. It's a lot of, and luckily I saw that you got some cool tours with nice buses and all that kind of stuff, and necessarily a 10-passenger van. The other thing I liked in the book, you talk a lot about being ready for the gig, And I talk to guys about this all the time. I believe it or not, even on Carnival Cruise Lines when I was an MD, that doesn't mean medical doctor, people, or a music director. We used to get guys that would come on and they didn't even look at the book that they were going to be playing the next night. And they'd be screwing up the show because they were sight reading completely a hard line. And like, dude, you had time. You had 24 hours at least to look at some of the parts. And that was the reason that you'd fire guys, because they weren't studying the part. To this day, Joe and I recently toured a couple of years ago now, Karen Lovely. Do you know her? She's out of Portland.
I know who she is, and I watched some videos of you guys playing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man, y'all sound real good, man. You guys make a great rhythm section, too.
Yeah, yeah, I love playing with Joe. We have a good time. But like, I ended up booking with her in Florida because when I show up to her gig, I wrote charts out on all her tunes. I studied them, I practiced them, I put when I should and she said the same thing. And I've been told before. I got on stage, she said, "Oh man, like I didn't have to worry. It was like we played together for 20 years." And that's what you want. That's how you keep the gig.
Exactly.
That's how you keep the gig. So talk about that a little bit. I talk about that and what you do to prepare. Do you write charts out? Do you write notes? Are you studying at home? You get a call from a guy you've never done the show before. You're going to be showing up at the festival like that show with Karen Lovely. We didn't get a chance to rehearse with her. We just showed up and played the thing.
Yeah, everything you just said is exactly what happens.
Go into your process.
Yeah. Okay. When I get a call, um, a cold call, and I have a few days before the gig. If it's a local gig, sometimes we might get the call on a Wednesday and the gig is Friday night. That sort of feeling. The 48-hour cushion is just enough for me to chart out the songs. I've been playing blues so long that almost every artist does a few covers. So most times I know the cover songs already. So I listen to the ones I know first, and then the ones that I kind of know, I brush up on them, and I chart everything. The ones I know, I don't chart them, but I write down the names of the songs and the tempo. So everybody does something at a different tempo, right?
Right.
So I want to have my beats per minute written down for every song and the name of the song. The ones I don't know, I'm definitely charting out. And then I'm sure we all have our ways of charting things. So
how do you chart? Do you chart with notation or do you have like a little shorthand for yourself? Like before
it's almost all shorthand. The only notation I chart is for the opening breaks of a song. If the song starts with the drums or there's a very specific, drum fill the song may start with, or if it's a really specific groove that isn't common. Because I've been, been doing this by ear so long. 4/4 grooves mostly all shuffles is shuffles, rumbles are rumbles, swings are swings. So if it's an uncommon groove, I write down. I may notate what the bass drum and snare drum is doing only. See, that's my quirky way of notating. Because what happens when my hands will be okay.
Right.
But the boom pap, boom pum pap must be there.
Yeah.
So let me get the boom pap together for every groove. That's what I might notate just that. The beats per minute, I'm a stickler towards that. And then that's my technical, I guess, notating on a per song. I keep like a spiral notebook or something. I don't even use laptops. Like, everybody has moved into the 21st century. And, everybody's using laptops and they've got these glowing screens on stage. I'm still the guy with a spiral notebook and a metronome app on my phone and my headphones if I'm running a click.
Oh, dude, I'm as old school as it gets. Everybody I've ever played with has a binder. And that, because it's just easier for me than a tablet. It's like it's all there. And a tablet, if the power goes out, the battery fails, the battery is never run out on one of my binders. They last forever.
Yeah. You know it. But, I've been using, the binder is better than the spiral. I've been using spiral notebooks. I've never got out of since grade school. They're cheap, and for one band or one act, that's your spiral for that act. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then if I play with the act all the time, if it's a reoccurring call, you get that one gig, you might call 4 times a year or whatever. I put the little color-coded tabs on the end of the page so I can just get right to the song. And that's it, man. That's my way of showing up prepared. Oh, and I will play a song over and over again because I'm working 50% memory and my notes.
Right.
I'm really tapping into the memory and certain grooves because again, I haven't been reading and notating for that long in that way. And I read, I'm sure, way slower than you because you have been reading professional level for many years. So for me, I'm more in tune with trusting my ear
Right,
before my
right.
eyes. And then, we have the casual of some gigs, some of the bar gigs or the singer-songwriter gigs where the artist is going to set up every song. So
Right, right.
you have the liberty to kind of thumb through your notes and you can kind of look at what you're going to do right before this next song is, and then you can count it off and go into your thing. Whereas some gigs, it's bam, 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 bam. It's
Right, right.
segues and all this. You got to really be on and on and on it. Those are the gigs I know. Okay, well, it's really 85% really have to be ingrained. But most of those kind of gigs have a rehearsal or two anyway, and the rehearsal, the for me the practice after the rehearsal is much more fruitful than the practices before the rehearsal because I'm sure you do this where you record the rehearsal.
Right, right, right.
And then there's normally a few days of cushion between the rehearsal and the gig, and that's when you can really hone it in.
Right. Well, now when I used to work with Dick Wagner was Alice Cooper's guitar player, and I toured with him for a while. He was a really good tour because he'd pick you up in an Escalade, and it was all like a lot of money in that tour. But before he would go out, we would rehearse in a studio for like 3 days, like 8 hours. On that show, because this was a rock show, and you would run that show from top to bottom exactly like you were going to do it on stage. So by the time you hit that road, your muscles had it. Like even if you were half asleep, you could play that because your muscles knew what to do. And one thing I do that I think you do too is I put it up on my phone. I put the tunes on my phone, and if I'm jogging outside, if I'm walking to the grocery store, I'm running that in my phone and my headphones constantly if it's a new show. Like if I'm on the treadmill at the gym, whatever I do, I'm listening to those tunes so that it immerses in my head. Because memory, I've had gigs where the wind blows, the chart flies off the stand. Now what do? Right?
You got to tap into the memory then.
Yeah. So I'm just listening and listening. The other thing, style. Like occasionally I would get a call for a reggae gig, and it's not my normal wheelhouse. So I would just listen to reggae for like 2 weeks. So
yeah, you have to get infused in the
Amen.
So like driving in your car, you listen to some reggae stuff. And
yeah.
That helps.
Yeah. That way you get that feeling of how they do the does at the end of the bar and all that stuff, and you start thinking that way.
Yes.
Yes. Show up at the gig, and then believe me, I have no illusion that I'm going to sound like Sly Dunbar, but I am not Sly Dunbar. I'm a white guy from the Bronx, New York. White Italian, but I can get the vicinity. I can get.
Yeah, you tap into the vibe. You listen to those skills, and yeah.
So one thing I wanted to mention about the book that I thought was cool that you kind of didn't talk about, and I get why. But I've had some tours that were not good experiences where the people did not do what they said they were going to do in the email. I got either less money and not an explanation with it, or one, and Joe may have told you, I don't know, where we were supposed to get rooms and they just got one room for the whole band. And like some of us had to sleep on the floor. And I got to admit, I didn't, being used to the carnival thing, I did not handle it well. I did not handle it well. And those folks will, if those folks win a Grammy, they will never call me again for any reason. Joe handled it much better than I did. But so this is where, in the email they said we're going to give you rooms. Well, they didn't say the whole band's getting one room. Like you should have said that. That was my argument with them. You need to tell me that we're all going to have just one room. I assumed I was going to be rooming with Joe. And you know what I mean? It would be a couple of rooms, and we just got the one, and that didn't do well with me. How do you handle those kind of conflicts when, and I'm sure it's happened where they tell you one thing, and then what happens on the road, something else happens?
That's the road. what you described, that's why I chuckled, man. That's when people go to a concert, the fans do not know. They just don't know what
Right.
we have been through that day, the day before. Tour life is full of that. It's the ups and downs of the road, and there's a balance. So how I deal with it is, for one, I've learned to ask meticulous questions in my negotiating. I give, and I've even made a list because I've been through so much. I've been through a ton of crazy situations being on the road.
Great respect for you and your road
care of
warrior.
you, where there's even with meals or just whatever disagreement was, a lot of that stuff is moot when you find yourself in some small town, and what the email said doesn't matter when you're in Nowhereville, Virginia. You just got to suck it up and deal with it. I try not to complain, because what I've noticed, no matter how bad the situation is, oftentimes it's not the fault of the band leader, because the band leader is probably taking less of a cut than you're getting, or they staying in some crappy room too. It's not like they're dropping you off at a shabby spot and they going to the Shangri-La,
Right.
But you really, if you get upset and express that, the only thing that cures that bad feeling between side musician, and band leader is a good performance.
Right.
So if you know that they promised you a great hotel room and you pull up and it's at a fan's house, that makes me more angry than anything. I don't like staying with people I don't know. So much to the point that I've made it a point now. It's in the email, it's an agreement. I must have a hotel room every night on the road, because I've had too many bad experiences staying at people's houses. But it may happen again. And when and if it does, I'm not going to really hold much of a fuss. There will be an impromptu meeting, but I'm definitely going to be careful with my word choice. And the only thing that cures that is a killer show that night. So if you're mad at 4:00,
right,
and and at 8:30, 9:00, you're smiling again, the music is the cure-all.
Right.
Now, another thing that you always have to look forward to when you on a long tour, even a short tour, if you just out for a week or two at a time, there are going to be low points. The only unacceptable low that like where I draw my line in the sand is the money. You will pay me what we agreed upon. Like, that is no, and I'm not taking one penny short of what we agreed upon. But the other lows that happen, what I've realized is there are ultimate highs that go along with music. I've met some famous athletes and entertainers in airports or train depots, or I've had conversations with like world leaders. Just me, I'm a drummer from West South Chicago, and I've had the pleasure to literally talk to people that's in some of the high places in high parliament and all this type of stuff, because I play drums. It's really strange where the music takes you. I've woken up looking over an olive field in the middle of Spain.
Right.
And then maybe like a week later, I'm in some bar, it's dirty or mad. Those are the highs and lows of it all. And fortunately, the highs outweigh the low points of touring. There's more points of enjoyment, and just some amazing times happen that really outweighs all the bad that comes along with playing music. So I guess to answer your question in a short way, I just deal with it all, and I try to keep a cool head. I try to expect the unexpected, and I've been doing it, 20 years now. So I know the vibe. I know when there's, no money in the budget, if an artist is just starting out, if it's money, and I know that things of traveling shouldn't be a problem. I'm more shocked when my room isn't what it's supposed to be, whether it's if I'm just playing with an artist that's within their first 5 years of touring.
Right, right.
It just kind of, it just comes with the territory.
I think I've gotten more to the point now for me, and I'm 58 years old. Same thing. I music has afforded me the ability to do some things I would have never been able to do had I not done this thing. Like, besides having to flip a coin with Joe of who's going to sleep on the floor that night, that's a low point. But I saw Michelangelo's David 3 times. You know what I mean? I've been around the world with Carnival Cruise Lines and done some things that no one would get to do. And it didn't cost me a cent. Went skydiving in Hawaii, you know what I mean? So, the road. So all this kind of stuff I did. And so I see the same thing with you, the yin and the yang of music. There's the bad and the good.
One of the things that I've learned to do, we all want a gig, especially within our first 10 years of playing. We want a steady, good gig. And then some of us realize that being a steady in a band isn't always what you want to do. I've met a lot of us that are mercenaries. We don't stick with one act.
Amen. Amen. Steve Gadd is my hero, and he is the ultimate mercenary.
Mm-hmm.
He's the studio guy, right? He always was. That's where I modeled my career kind of in my way after him as my hero. Go ahead, interrupt.
But the mercenary must have ultimate faith, because you're only as good as your last gig. You don't know when the phone may stop ringing. If you play well, the phone will, and you have good relationships, the phone will continue to ring. But things that are beyond your control can stop the phone from ringing for a month at a time. And we never know when that time is. And then also, there's times of the year that the mercenary just isn't working. We all know that's in February. No mercenary is working in February. If you don't got nothing going on in NAMM,
Right.
You're just not working. Most mercenaries, our stuff stops right after the new year. Right after the new year until the warming up to the weather starts breaking. It's feast or famine. It's most of the time, just a few gigs a month. And you're hoping on a recording session, or you're hoping that something big happens that holds you through that time until the weather breaks. That's just for the mercenary.
And well, 2 things from me. One, like you were saying, I don't want to really be in a band because if that ship sinks, you're going down with the ship.
Absolutely.
And then you're kind of pigeonholed and guys don't know you're available. But the other side of it, and I always like to bring him up because he's such my guy. When I was 19 or 20, I can't remember, I saw Steve Gadd at Central Park with Paul Simon on a Tuesday night. He sounded great. And then I saw him a week later with Al Di Meola. And we were talking about the Paul Simon gig is one style of playing, and the Al Di Meola gig is a different, and he did both, of course. He was phenomenal on both. And I thought, that's the way I want to be. I want to be able to sit in with the reggae guys and do that gig, play with Tasha, play with Karen Lovely, do a swing thing. I did a couple swing things 2 years ago and feel fine. Like I said, I may not be Sly Dunbar. I may not be Buddy Rich when I'm playing the swing thing, but I'm going to get you through all those gigs. And I'm going to feel confident about my ability to get you through those gigs. And for me, that's a drummer. For me, that's wrong or right. I'm going to just say it. That's a real drummer. It's not about the style. I'm playing the rhythms that requires. The master of rhythm. And that's what you and I are. The phone rings. My teacher used to say, the phone rings, you go, you figure out if you can play it on the way there.
You're listening on the way to the gigs.
While you're driving, you figure out if you're going to be able to do it or not. But saying no is not an option. You don't. Right. So you're working on book number 2?
Yes. Right now, I'm writing book number 2.
And what's that?
Also, the songwriting is really, really taking off. I'm really excited about that. I have a song on Bernard Allison's last record. Actually, Songs from the Road. Get your copy.
Oh, all right.
So I'm on on the back it says Night Train. I wrote track 1. Can you see that?
Track 1, Night Train. Well, what you do?
Yeah.
Took a ride on the night train, moving kind of slow. When I woke up, I was in Chicago. Pulled up my bootstrap, my guitar on my back. I had to make some money off for the train ride back.
So on this next record, I think I have maybe like, I've talked about that today. We last talked about his next record, and I have 3 songs that may be appearing on his record. So that's really big for me.
Right.
I have
How do you write, by the way? Are you writing on piano? Are you writing on guitar? What are you doing?
Actually, I have my trusted keyboard sitting over there.
Oh, all right.
And it's okay. I have a Yamaha songwriter's keyboard. So it's not like I'm a genius piano player at all. It's one of those like pre-programmed boards where you can literally press the button and the C chord plays.
Right.
Press another button in the E minor chord plays. It's that kind of thing. So I have like these. Some of them are like pre-recorded background tracks, and I can make tracks on my laptop. And then I figure the chords out, what I'm thinking in my head, And once I get a chord figured out, whatever, once I get, just some basic parts laid down, then I'm able to write lyrics. Because that's the real, the real brainchild for me is just the writing. And then
are you
once
writing?
I get my structure and lyrics, then I don't, because I'm writing for blues artists mostly, I've learned not to make anything musically specific because things will be changed.
Knowing that other thing, I think, and you can comment on this, is having that background, I think, makes you a better drummer. Having the musical background.
Mm-hmm.
Have you always dabbled in the writing thing, or is this a new thing? Even when you were coming up in drums, was that something that you like to do a little bit of?
No, writing. I started writing in 2000. What was it? 2014. I started writing because, I was in my 30s at that point in my career. And, with most musicians, most of us, when we hit 35, we're thinking, man, I've been doing this a while. What else should I be doing? It's like we all side musicians hit that 35 quest, and we start branching out into other things because we've been doing we've had the tunnel vision for 10 solid years, and then it's past 10 years, and now we start we understand that we can just play a gig. So what else am I not doing? What else could I do? So a lot of us break out into producing and, arranging, and, it's like your brain start moving other ways. So I wanted to get into something. I start to meet drummers that are songwriters, and I realized those are the kind of like those are the cool guys in the room. Like it's like this little, sub society, this little secret society of musicians that when a bunch of side musicians in the room, you can come in, you can be a hot shot drummer, and then people, hey man, hey, how you doing? People acknowledge you. But when you write, people acknowledge you and they want to come talk to you. And I started noticing that with drummers that write, drummers that produce, drummers that wear other hats. It's more of a thing where people are gravitating towards them because they want something from them. So I said, man, like, what am I going to do other than just play drums? I knew I could do more. So I wrote one song. I figured this one, because I had a funny song in my head. The song I wrote called "Big Legged Woman."
Oh, all right.
and it was one of those, funny call and response blues songs. I don't even remember it, but it was a funny call and response blues song that I had written, and then I just let some of my friends hear it, and the response of people just laughing at something I created that sparked. I was like, I got to keep doing this. So for a while, I did it for my first 5 years as a hobby, and just to have something that I can play in the van on the road.
Right.
You know, you just surround your friend. Hey, check this out. I made this song, and my first 5 years, I was always just making tunes just to see people's reaction. And then once, you know, what really pushed me and gave me the confidence is our good friend Joe Veloz. When he was making his record, he asked me about some songs, and it was us three. We were playing together with the Sean Kellerman band, and then we started playing with Kelly Hunt. And he said, "Man, I'm doing my album. Why don't you send me some songs, man? Because your songs are funny. You know, they're good time songs." So I sent him 3 songs, and the song that I liked the least out of the 3 is the song that he liked and he picked.
Yeah.
And so I knew I had something going when he presented the song. He wanted Lucky Peterson to sing it. We both agreed that Lucky Peterson would be the perfect artist to sing this song. And because Sean Kellerman, we were playing with Sean in the Sean Kellerman band, he had the gig with Lucky. He had access to be able to call Lucky and say, "Hey man, you want to do the song for my buddy's album?" So when that worked out, when Lucky heard the song, he liked it. And the song was called Jukin' and Shaking. So once that song was published, I arranged another song with a Chicago artist named Nigel Mack and the Blues Attack. And he gave me arrangement credits for a song on his album. So once I saw my name on the back of a CD and a blues legend recorded one of my first songs that I was able to get published, that was it, man. I knew I had something.
Well, you know, there's a lot of successful drummer songwriters. The first one that comes to mind is Phil Collins. He didn't do too bad in his life, you know. He had a lot of top 10 hits. I think it makes you a better drummer. I think it just does. I think some of the best compliments I've received over my life is, and this has been said, the ones that I would get more than once is that, whenever I hire you, you don't play like a drummer, you play like a musician.
Musician, yeah.
And that's
a great compliment.
That's a great compliment for just because, and you know, we're drummers. I don't want to downplay drummers, but there's habits of drummers overplaying and trying to put that new fill in the, you know what I mean? The one they just worked on, you know, over 5, they want to squeeze it in this blues tune, and like, no, just play the song the way it's supposed to be. Play, you know, and if no fill makes the song sound good, then that's what you do. Yeah. Hey, you know, if I don't mention this one thing, I read it in your book, and every drummer that reads your book will get mad at me and write me a letter about it. I took a lesson from him when I was 21 with 3 other guys. It seems like you met Bernard Purdie. He's pros. Tell me a little bit about that meeting. He is the most recorded drummer in history, they say. And of course, any drummer worth his salt has learned the Purdie Shuffle. You know what I mean? You can't play the Purdie Shuffle, get out of the business.
So get out of the business. Yeah, you can't play Rosanna.
Yeah. Well, that's Jeff Porcaro. Yeah, right.
That's the Purdie Shuffle.
And for the, I'm a big Bonham guy as well. Fool Lorraine is the same idea. Yeah. I'll take it from that same idea. Yeah. So tell us a little about the meeting with Purdie. Did you get to talk to him? What was going on?
Oh man, this is one of the greatest times. I was playing with Welch Ledbetter Connection, 2018. We were at the Untitled Norway. We were playing up in Norway. They have a huge blues festival. You know, well, Bernard Purdie was there, so you know it was a big deal.
Right. Yeah.
Bonnie Raitt.
Who was he playing with? Who was Purdie playing with there?
You know? His own thing.
Oh, okay.
Like the Bernard Purdie Experience or something like that. Right. He had his own his band. And he does more of like a presentation type of thing. You know, he's talking and grooving. Right, that. You know.
Yeah. I've watched his videos enough.
I'm sorry.
Watch his videos enough. He talks all the way through them.
Yeah. It's more of a workshop vibe.
Yeah.
You know, he's teaching and talking. You know.
Yeah.
So and he was doing bluesy stuff. You know, he's you know, I mean, you already know he's amazing.
Yeah.
So it was the Notaden Blues Festival, and it was at breakfast. Now, to set this up, before I met Bernard Purdy, I was at the at the smokage board, at the area. I'm getting food, and right in front of me in the line, as I'm getting my food, like this cafeteria style hotel breakfast. I'm getting my food, and here's Warren Haynes. Hey man, how you doing? Oh man, you sounded great last night. Oh yeah, because government mule, So I got to talk to him, and then I sit down. I'm having breakfast. In comes Bernard Purdy. Oh man, the room stops.
Oh yeah.
And he walks right over to us. Hey, fellas, how you doing? You're just the nicest man in the world. And it was, like one of, I'm at the table with, people from this band and that band, all the, the side musicians. We all got a little table. And he comes over and he greets us. And he asked us how we doing. And he just stood there. And hey, man, have a seat, And the waitress brought over some coffee. And we just started asking questions. And he was just an open book. It was like one of those times where an old man early in the morning just want to talk. No, it felt like I was talking to my grandfather over breakfast. And I got to ask him so many questions. I asked him the main question that's the biggest thing that drummers want to know is the Beatle question.
Oh, right.
I asked him, I say, is it true that you recorded with the Beatles? Is it true that you did some ghost drumming for them? And he told me yes. That's all I need to hear. He told me yes. You know what I'm saying? This is 2018. He talked about playing on Broadway. He talked about years of playing on Broadway. He talked about he really went in about moral things, about keeping your nose clean, and more, physically and mentally, about just because he was never a drug addict or person who abused alcohol. He described living a clean life and the importance of it. So it was kind of like that time where, a grandfather gonna sit down and school the youngins. He's gonna tell us,
Right. Way back in the early 80s, me and 3 other drummers, because he was expensive, because at that time, him and Gad were doing all, you name it in New York, they had all the sessions sewn up. And Gad, everybody knows that Gad was having some serious problems with drug abuse at the time, and Bernie wasn't. And Bernie talked a little bit about that with us, about not, part of the lesson was not getting involved in drugs.
Yeah.
He never mentioned Gad's name, but he said, I know there's some great guys and you hear the stories, but they're not going to last if they keep up what they're doing. Now, Gad got clean, thank God he got clean, straightened up his life, and thanks to his wife. But the one thing I got to ask Bernie about at that time, I said, I love watching you play, man. You're just always moving. And this one thing he said changed my playing for the next, however old I am now, from then to now. He said, I'm just dancing, because if I can't dance to what I'm doing, how can they? And if you dance to what you're doing, then all of the silly stuff that you shouldn't be playing won't be there, because it won't feel natural. And from that moment on, and I had people say that they heard a difference in my playing. I started to move a little more when I was playing, just to make my body groove.
Yeah.
And then the groove I would come up with was more natural to the song. So it was just that, whatever, the 10 words, whatever it was, I didn't count them, that he said was like gospel. That was a life-changing event. And this is back in the 80s, cost me $100, the 4 of us. It took $400 for an hour with Bernard Purdy. That was the lesson. we didn't get to play.
Some of the stuff you can pick up, it doesn't have anything to do with the actual hitting of the drum. Some of the most valuable lessons is just doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Just talking with him. Because, he's a great player, and he talked about the Purdy Shuffle. That was he had the big thing was, what's the song? Not Josie, I Got the News. I can't remember the name of the song right now. The Steely Dan tune they recorded, Home at Last.
Okay.
And so when we talked about that with him, but that one line, and to be honest with you, I don't remember hardly anything of the lesson to this day except those words. Because
that's what stuck with you.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Everything was good that he taught. It was cool, but those words dance while you play. It'll make them dance.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Anyway, Andrew, it was really cool meeting you. Joe's always spoken very highly of you. I'm glad I got to talk with you and meet with you and read your book. Everybody get the book. I'll put a link to it when I do the YouTube, when I finally get the video up. So really good to talk with you. And Joe spoke really highly. He kept saying, oh, you got to get him on the show. You got to get him on the show. Because Joe is actually a fan of musicians on couches drinking coffee.
Okay.
Coffee. So, all right. I hope things go well for you. Let me know when your second book comes out. Maybe if the show gets bigger and somebody sponsors me, we'll have you on again for the second book.
It will, because this has been a very comfortable experience, and drummers need this, because we all think about the 2 and the 4 and how to get better.
Right.
But the talking, man, the stories and the experiences, that's what all the meat is, man.
Well,
so
that's what this is about. Working guys like you and me, like Gad and Caliuta, they got tons of interviews they do. We can go on YouTube and see 90 different interviews and I love those guys. Believe me, I watch them. But you and I put myself in that category, guys who we're digging the trenches. We're playing those gigs, all the time. We got stories that Gad doesn't have anymore. He's not in that thing. And we can share things with the guys coming up that they may not be able to share. So and maybe inspire them, maybe make them think, I ain't doing that, But, I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much for being part of the show. And I'll link you to this when it all comes up. And like I said, it usually takes me about 2 weeks to do the editing. All right.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.